My name is Zoe Martlew. I play the cello. I've had a particular interest in new music. I've played with many new music ensembles. I've worked with many composers and more recently worked in the field of electronics. I've also worked with video artists. I write music as well. I've worked a lot with dancers. I've played with pop, rock and jazz bands, improvisation groups, comedy groups, theatre groups. I've also been involved in education projects, have played the cello and various other kinds of music in prisons and schools and universities. And I've also been a judge on the TV show Maestro, as well as talking a little bit about music for the Proms on the BBC. I think my real turning point was when I went to university and I met many composers, wonderful generation of composers, and started to not only just play the cello but also see how music was created. Now this led me to be interested in lots of different repertoire and kinds of music, including pop, rock, jazz, different kinds of avant-garde approaches to making music, and in turn to theatre. I've always been very, very interested in theatre. So there was a natural progression for me to write my own music, but also perform with text. So to combine music with text, with theatre, with drama is something I've always loved to do, and cabaret for me is a perfect mix of all of those elements. A rigorous classical training has been utterly essential in everything that I've done. It's taught me the principles of harmony and counterpoint, which have been the building blocks for me then to go and study further afield. Improvisation, for example, it wouldn't exist in the same way if I wasn't able to hear harmony. And having heard the music of many different kinds of composers all across the spectrum, both from the 20th century, from this century, and really over a very large spectrum of kinds of music. This has informed the way that I now write my own music and can improvise in different styles. So here was my cunning plan. I felt there must be a way to get audiences to come to classical music without thinking that they're going to be bored stiff and it was going to be this idea of an elitist approach to classical music. So I felt that by creating an environment, this is something I'm passionate about, where an audience can enjoy themselves first and foremost in a setting which is maybe not a traditional concert hall. They'll be able to hear within context of maybe comedy, of songs, of theatre. They will also be able to sit down and hear a piece of classical music without realising that that's in fact what they're doing. Their ears will be open, they'll be relaxed, they'll be listening. And the fact that I might be striding around in thigh boots and brandishing a whip has actually nothing to do with it. It's a context which is fun, which is theatre, which is comedy, but also allows for some serious music making. And I found it to be effective with people from all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of settings. First of all, we've got a problem in defining what classical music is. We're talking about music that spans 900 years or more. And classical music now has been downgraded to mean something that can be downloaded on a ringtone, adds a touch of corporate class to a business. We've all been used to hearing on a call waiting menu, da-da-dun, da-da-dun, da-da-da-da. It's been also downgraded. Apparently it keeps the rougher elements away in tube stations, for example. Now, the thing is, it almost would be more honest to define classical music now as art music. We're talking about something which is becoming more and more lost in our culture. Now, the problem is we've lost a generation of musicians in this country due to the cuts in funding from the Tory government in the late 80s. Children have not been given a chance to learn instruments. They haven't been able to afford to learn instruments. We've lost a generation of audience listeners. We've lost a generation also of teachers. So the problem now is that classical music is being packaged along with the Chardonnay in Tesco's, but without people really being able to hear the real thing. Give people real music. Give them real classical music. Give them symphonies. Don't give them Vivaldi with a rock beat. We don't need girls in wet t-shirts flicking hair, playing Mozart with a blues backing. Give them the real thing. Reintroduce classical music. This can be music from Baroque, Romantic, modern music, music of the last 100 years, music that's being written now. Give them this in the schools, go into prisons, into universities. Give them the real thing. We don't need to package it. I've got another number of projects up my sleeve, as I always do at any point. In a couple of days, I'm playing the part of a dance mistress in a radio play that is showing in Toronto. I'm writing some music with a dancer from New York City Ballet, which we're going to be playing in London later this year. I'm playing on film sessions. I'm going to be playing some Stockhausen with Birmingham Contemporary Music Group. I work with Sinfonietta. That's all I can remember that's happening. There's always different projects in the pipeline. The internet is an incredibly powerful tool that we have available now to spread music and education. Having seen some of the music auditions online for the YouTube Symphony Orchestra, what struck me is that in countries all over the world, people of all ages, from all backgrounds, in their kitchens, bedrooms and bathrooms, are making music with the idea of joining worldwide. Now, how incredible to be able to have these kind of resources online for education purposes. So programs like Sing Up, a government-funded programme now set up in the UK, have resources like a song bank where you can share songs, you can download texts, lyrics, backing track, but also this website MusBook, where somebody who's setting up an education project in one part of the country can share it with someone across the globe and share ideas, resources, music. There are more and more sites where music and the resources to teach it can be shared. I think this is very exciting.